This is QTV Nightly News and I am Jennifer Sonko. Thank you for joining us. And you can also join us on Q Radio. Here are the main news headlines. President Barrow has appointed Siring Modunjai as the Gambia's new Minister of Foreign Affairs. Additionally, Joseph Koli has been named Chairman and Chena Jallow appointed Deputy Chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission. Usainu Dabo, Secretary General and leader of the UDP, has defended his party's decision to reject the 2024 draft constitution at the National Assembly on Monday. As the numbers of missing migrants continue to rise, the Gambia is hosting the first high-level meeting of national focal points under the Rabat Process Framework. And in international news, in an apparent turnaround in U.S.-Africa relations, U.S. President Donald Trump is hosting 5 presidents from West and Central Africa. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay. Thank you for staying with us. This is QTV News and I am Jennifer Sonko. President Adama Barrow has appointed Siring Modunjai as the Gambia's new Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad. Njai, formerly Minister of Defense, replaces Dr. Tangara following his appointment to an AU role in Mali. Details with Yafa Tugay.
The announcement was made in a State House press release on Wednesday. According to the release, Siring Modunjai holds a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in international relations. A native of Medina Siring Mas, Njai began his military career in 1989. He served as a public relations officer for the Gambia Armed Forces in 1998, later becoming the head of the Republic National Guard in 2011. He also held diplomatic roles as Deputy Head of Mission at the Gambia High Commission in New Delhi and the Gambian Embassy in Turkey before his appointment as Minister of Defense in 2022. Meanwhile, Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow has been assigned oversight of the Ministry of Defense. In another development at the State House on Wednesday, Joseph Koli, the current Vice Chairman, was appointed as chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission following the retirement of long-serving Chief Ali Momar Njai earlier this year. Chena M. Jallow has been appointed as the new deputy chairman of the IEC. Mr. Jallow brings wealth of experience from his work in government and multiple United Nations positions across Africa and Asia. Reporting for QTV News, this is Yafa Tugay.
Congratulations to all of them. Moving on Wednesday, the National Assembly of the Gambia convened its second ordinary session of 2025 legislative year, where the Vice President and several ministers addressed key national issues and policy concerns in a robust oral answer session. Mam Nabuka has the rest of that story.
Throughout the first half of 2025, the Gambian government has been tasked with charting a path towards sustainable development by working to provide quality public service in agriculture, education, health, and infrastructure development, among other key areas. This National Assembly's second ordinary session on questions for oral answers enables members of Parliament to hold the government accountable for their performance and administrative actions thus far. It fosters oversight and transparency by allowing them to scrutinize government policies, address public concerns, collect data, and comprehend the rationale behind certain initiatives. Brought before the lawmakers, Vice President Mohamed B.S. Jallow was the first to take the podium and was asked to clarify how the government intends to support families who are vulnerable to the rainy season under their disaster management plan.
Drain clearing and cleaning is in progress in disaster hotspots areas while the Koto stream is being cleared and cleansed to ensure flow of stormwater under the intervention of the Waka project. Moreover, I personally have undertaken a tour of disaster-prone areas on Thursday, 12 June 2025 to ensure preparedness, and instructions were given to stakeholder institutions to coordinate for timely intervention for mitigation and in case of disaster.
Among the ministers present was the Minister of Justice, Dauda A. Jallow, who faced a barrage of questions regarding the number of cases that are referred to them for advice. Parliamentarians expressed concern regarding the backlog of cases in our courts and whether justice is being rightfully administered, especially with the visible lack of digital transformation in the ministry. Dauda Ejalo put their concerns to rest.
Currently, we have a very good IT officer posted to the ministry from the Ministry of Digital Economy. On his own, he's trying to help us domestically develop something that we can help us digitally monitor our cases. But I've raised it with a lot of development partners. I've seen some interest in support coming. So it remains a big challenge and a priority for the ministry, but we will keep working and ensure that this happens.
Recently, a moratorium on private fiber optic cable development in the Gambia was implemented to protect the government's investment in the existing fiber optic infrastructure and to address concerns about frequent fiber cuts, which are disrupting internet services and increasing operational costs for service providers. Lamin Jabi, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, responded to questions asking why the moratorium has been partially lifted, allowing the development of fiber infrastructure from URR to the Combos by private service providers.
Private operators and GSC members submitted a position paper to PURA and copied our ministry, raising concerns about the frequent fiber cuts and slow repairs on the Gamtel managed backbone, which hindered service delivery to their customers. PURA supported their concerns and recommended to our ministry for lifting of the moratorium. This was done in the interest of maintaining momentum in network expansion and service improvement.
This session, marked by open dialogue with several other ministers, reiterated the government's dedication to addressing the concerns raised by the Assembly and working together to build a better future for the Gambia. Mamna Buka, reporting for QTV News.
Usainu Dabo, Secretary General and leader of the United Democratic Party, UDP, has defended his party's decision to reject the 2024 draft constitution less than 24 hours after it was rejected by the National Assembly on Monday. Julden Jai has more.
United Democratic Party leader Usainu Dabo has defended his party's decision to reject the 2024 draft constitution, describing the process as flawed and lack legitimacy. The UDP leader accused President Barrow's government of undermining constitutional reform by sidelining public consultation in favor of political interests.
President Adama Barrow and his government, who both openly and behind the scenes led the campaign to sabotage that people-centered draft. They withdrew their support. They lobbied against it. And when the time came, their allies in parliament killed it. The UDP and their progressive voice and other progressive voices stood in full support of the 2020 CRC draft.
His remarks came the day after a crucial parliamentary vote in which the draft constitution failed to secure the required two-thirds majority to advance. Although 35 members voted in favor, 21 voted against, blocking the bill. Mr. Dabo further criticized the draft as an executive imposition rather than a product of national consensus.
The Gambian people's constitution is what resonates with us, and that is what we have always stood for, and we will continue to stand for that. For several years since 1996, we have given our lives, we have given our assets, our properties, everything we have done so that this country gets a constitution that the Gambian people deserve. We cannot allow President Adama Barrow and his APRC allies to impose on the Gambian people a constitution that we do not deserve. And I want to say that the United Democratic Party does not feel apologetic about the votes that took place in the National Assembly yesterday. It was one that is expected. And if anything happened other than that, we would feel that our National Assembly members have indeed betrayed the Gambian people.
He reaffirmed the UDP's support for constitutional reform, but only through an inclusive process.
A constitution is the most important legal and moral compass of a nation. It defines who we are and what we aspire to become as a nation in the community of nations. We cannot accept a process where a president unilaterally disregards discussed a draft that reflected the collective will of the Gambian people, only to replace it with a document crafted behind closed doors by himself and his allies.
As the debate continues over the future of constitutional reform in the Gambia, Mr. Dabo said the solution lies in reviving the 2020 draft, which he believes reflected national consensus and public participation. However, it should be recalled that the 2020 draft was also rejected by the National Assembly by 31 votes to 23. For QTV News, I am Julden Jai.
From that story by Julden Jai on the rejected draft constitution, we will now take a short commercial break, and when we return, we have local and international news stories to stay.
fii mooy fan fii mooy Inessa di place bi nga xam ne moom la ñëpp taam place bii bépp xeetu ataaya bu baax rek bu dugg see ci dëkk bi xamal ne fii rek la am bara wërga bii neex na lool saf na ba pare tamit nag am gu bu neex boo ko naanee rek da ngay kontaan ci saa añ ba suur ba gëreesal li nga lekk jëndal bara ataaya bii ndax moom la ñëpp taam gis nga sama client bii ataaya bu neex bu ne moom laa koy njëkk a jox ndax moom kat ataaya bu neex rek lay wër bara wërga bii mooy warga bi gën te moo gën a saf kon nag ràññee leen ko bu baax kon daw leen gaaw ca Banjul foofu ca Inessa di place bi nga xam ni foofu rek nga ko mën a amee wholesale wala retail mu ngi foofu ci boori court house bi foofu ca Banjul wala nga daw ci bépp marché bépp supermarket bépp boutique fépp foo dugg rek di nga mën a am baara warga bii nga xam ne moom la ñëpp di wër tey baara warga moo dàq ci warga yi man maa ngi ci moom ndax su ma maree ataaya moom rek lay naan.
Bank, we are more than banking. We build bridges that connect you to pivotal services every day. Do you have government bills to pay to the Gambia Revenue Authority, Comfort, KMC, or the Accountant General's Department? We've got you covered. From payment of customs and domestic taxes to GRA, payment of number plate and vehicle ownership transfer to Comfort, payment of property rates and business license fee to KMC, and payment of MR passport, business registration, fishing license, land fees, sale of assets, lease application, development permits, quarrying royalties, gravel and sand, mining royalties, and a host of other revenue lines to the Accountant General's Department. Walk into any of our branches nationwide and make your payments hassle-free. Either in person or online. Simple, secure, and immediate. With Ajib Bank, there is no need to worry about government bill payments for your vehicles, taxes, licenses, business registration, and any other revenue line. Ajib Bank, passionate about your investment. We've got you covered. Ajib Bank, your investment partner.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV News, and I am Jenna Basonko. Now, still on local news, as the numbers of missing migrants continue to rise, the Gambia government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is hosting the first high-level in-person thematic meeting of national focal points for missing migrants within the Rabat process framework. The meeting comes against the backdrop of record deaths along irregular migratory routes. Aliu Sise has the rest of that story.
In a show of solidarity and cooperation, delegates from Africa and Europe are meeting in the Gambia, co-chair of the Rabat process, for a critical two-day diplomatic meeting to confront one of the most tragic realities of irregular migration, the fate of missing migrants. According to officials at this meeting, more than 74,000 migrants have died or gone missing since 2014, including thousands of children. The Mediterranean Sea remains the deadliest route, followed by African land routes, where thousands have perished while fleeing conflict, poverty, or persecution. As a country of origin and transit for many irregular migrants, the Gambia's Interior Minister, Abdoulaye Sanyang, is distressed by the figures and called for concerted efforts to address this crisis.
These statistics are not just numbers. They represent shattered dreams, broken families, and communities burdened with grief and uncertainty. Each case of missing migrant leaves behind a trail of anguish legal and administrative confusion, and emotion despair. For the families left behind, the pain of not knowing, of waiting endlessly for closure can be unbearable.
This meeting focused on enhancing regional cooperation, identifying missing persons, supporting grieving families, and preventing future deaths. Representing Switzerland, co-chair of the meeting, Grégoire Cretas, head of bilateral cooperation for Africa, Americas, and Oceania within the State Secretariat for Migration, Enrica Pelekani, head of cooperation, EU delegation to the Gambia, International Committee for the Red Cross, Jane Nicholas Marty, head of regional delegation in Dakar, respectively, advocated stronger cooperation, emphasizing that the issue of missing migrants is a multifaceted, complex issue that requires to be addressed at different levels.
Can you imagine a mother or a father or a brother who was a family member who went over the sea to Europe to find new existence and suddenly disappears and there is no news for this person?
Although the scope of the European Union action concerning missing migrants is limited, because this mainly falls within the national competences of our member states, the European Union and its member states have been actively engaged in addressing these challenges jointly with African partners. Since 2015, the European Union has supported search and rescue operations at sea and in the desert.
The impact of these activities is already being felt, and we continue to receive requests for further support and engagement. However, sustaining these efforts require resources. I must here take this opportunity to remind the Member States of the Rabat process that today, more than ever, the financial capacity of the humanitarian actors, including the ICRC, are under increased strain.
Organizers say the meeting is a step forward in ensuring no migrant is forgotten and no family left without answers. With deepening cooperation and sustained efforts, they hope to translate their commitments into actions. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
ActionAid International de Gambia, in partnership with Activista, with support from the Center for Budget, Microeconomic and Transparency, held a national dialogue on financing for development forum on Tuesday. Here are the details. The forum brought together stakeholders from civil society organizations, government institutions, youth networks and partners to discuss sustainable financing mechanisms aimed at addressing pressing development challenges. Global demands such as debt cancellation for developing countries, fair and just climate financing, and accountability from the world's biggest polluters were amongst areas discussed at the forum. Dr. Sekou Kausu Gassama is Activista's board chairperson.
Today we call for a new financing pact, one rooted in equity, dignity and justice, and shared responsibility. Our developmental aspirations remain stifled by an unsustainable debt burden. Every dalasi converted to external payment is a dalasi stolen from our classrooms, farms, and clinics. Considering the imbalances and injustices that have come to characterize international political economic relations since the establishment of the Bretton Woods institutions,
ActionAid International conducted an in-depth analysis of national economies using World Bank classifications of income levels for 2024 to 2025, covering 24 low-income countries, including the Gambia, and 50 lower middle-income countries. Of these 74 countries assessed, 8 are already in a debt crisis, 19 are at high risk, and 24 face a moderate risk. Only 10 countries were found to be at low or no risk, while data was unavailable for 3 countries, according to ActionAid, the Gambia's Executive Director, Ndela Faikoli.
Even more concerning is the fact that over 70% of these countries are among the most climate vulnerable nations. Of the 24 lowest income countries, including the Gambia, 22 fall within the top 20% of those most exposed to climate-related risk. For Gambians, it's a living reality. It's the rainy season now, and on a daily basis, when we want the rains to come, but we also know some of the things that happen when the rain comes, and we are yet to note some flooding and all of that, but no one knows what the future holds. These countries face the harshest impacts of climate crisis and are the least prepared to respond.
ActionAid International has called on all multilateral and bilateral finances to cancel all debts owed by the Gambia. The organization highlighted that such decisive action would enable the Gambia government to allocate more resources to essential sectors such as health, education, agriculture and social protection, as well as climate change adaptation and mitigation, citing these sectors as the bedrock of human development. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Basonko. The Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Insurance Authority, Baima Sen, on Wednesday announced the countrywide expansion of the National Health Insurance Scheme and the enrollment of over 29,000 people into the scheme. He made the disclosure at the monthly press conference organized by the Ministry of Information. And Sumane Sonyasi was there and he now reports.
The National Health Insurance Scheme was established in 2021 to provide financial risk protection and ensure access to quality and affordable health care to all residents of the Gambia. Since its rollout, the implementing authority has actively engaged health facilities across the country following the registration period. Baima Sen, CEO of the National Health Insurance Authority, said that despite resource constraints, the scheme has since its introduction made significant progress, noting an increase in the number of contracted service providers and enrollment of members of the public, with 29,000 people and 67 healthcare facilities nationwide are currently enrolled with the scheme.
The NHIS represents more than just access to care. It represents peace of mind for families, a safeguard for mothers and children, and a system built on solidarity and inclusion. As we continue to expand our reach and strengthen our operations, we remain committed to transparency, accountability, and the core mission of making healthcare affordable and accessible for all.
Additionally, Mr. Sen, along with the authority's Director of Services, Dr. Hassan Jai, reaffirmed the NHIA's commitment to ensuring the uncompromised provision of quality services by the contracted facilities, adding that responsive monitoring mechanisms have been put in place to ensure providers meet the required national standards as set out by the Ministry of Health and the authority's quality assurance officers.
Is about strategic implementation, because in health insurance implementations, the tariff that you set for public subvented or subsidized public health facilities would be different from the private. We know most of the private, even those that are supposedly calling themselves not-for-profit, are still profit-driven because they need to get the margin to cover for their operating expenses and also continue to provide the service.
Meanwhile, Aliu Sow, NHIA membership manager, provided additional information on the health insurance scheme, particularly registration and how the introduction of the scheme has impacted the lives of members since its inception.
There's just some policy issues that need to be fixed, and once that is done, the government will come out happily to announce the progress in terms of that. And when that happens, again, the membership card will be easily accessible. Each person will be able to get the. Currently, you can only have the health insurance card when you go to the health facilities.
As the NHIA plans to expand the scheme further, officials are urging the public to support it by enrolling. At the same press conference, Information Minister Dr. Ismaila Ceesay briefed the press on recent government developments, including the resignation of the Foreign Affairs Minister, the National Assembly Select Committee's report on the petroleum saga investigation, and the appointment of renowned Kora maestro Sona Jobate as Destination Gambia's brand roaming ambassador. And Swaneso Nyanse for QTV News.
That is all we have time for. Join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Thanks for watching.